Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Today we are going to be creating some mix and match little agenda cards with Mama Elephant stamps and dies. This is something that I've actually promised for a while. I had asked on another video if you wanted to see some mixing and matching of little agenda images, and there was a lot of yeses, so I thought I would share this today. I am using some of the new little agenda llamas, but pretty sparingly. We're just using a few of those. I wanted to share kind of how you can mix and match all of them. And we're going to be creating our first card with this heart grid cover from Mama Elephant. I did die cut this from smooth white cardstock, and I kept the hearts that I've die cut out, and then I masked off the edges of this background from the stitching line out with some post-it tape, and we're applying a little bit of this dried marigold distress ink around the edges. So a very favorite color combination of mine is something I think that it's not maybe one you would think of very often, and I actually really like this for Valentine's cards as well, as a little bit of a non-traditional color scheme. But when blended together, abandoned coral and dried marigold creates a really pretty color combination. It takes a little work to kind of get that beautiful ombre effect of reddish to that pretty light orange, but it's totally worth it. I worked pretty hard. I'm using regular distress inks, not oxides here, to kind of get that color combination. Probably would be even a little easier with oxides if you wanted to try that. I preferred for this project the more intense color, not the so chalky look of the oxide inks. I'm going to remove the outer borders, which instantly gives the look that this is a masked panel, which is what I was looking for. And then I have some of these easy sentiments left over from the project where I created the apron treat bags and also a matching card. I will link to that at the end of this video if you want to check it out. But I had these left over from that project. I had stamped and embossed them with antique gold embossing powder on white cardstock. And so we're actually going to use the two leftover greetings from that last project I just mentioned for my cards today. I just slipped them into the storage pocket with my stamp and die, and that way when I went to create some additional cards, I had some sentiments already ready to go. And I think that's a great way to use up product. That Easy Sentiments actually stamps 3 phrases at once, and then the die cuts 3 at once. And there are 6 different sets of phrases you can use there, and a lot of these would have worked, but I again wanted to use what I had already stamped and embossed. I am very gently then taking my blender brushes and adding some color to those hearts with the blender. I'm not adding a lot of extra ink in most cases. If the ink starts to run out a little bit, I will add a little additional, but I want them to be very light. I don't want these to be near as dark as the outer panel. You could also ink up a panel to go back behind this or leave it white. I opted again not to have any waste, and this way I perfectly have all of these great little backgrounds that are going to serve as the inner part of the frame when I pop, or I think I popped this up, yeah, when I pop up the heart grid cover. And you'll see more of what I mean here in a minute when I put this together. I completely built the background first, and then we'll go back and stamp and color and die cut and add all of the little agenda critters into these great little heart windows. This card features the most of the mixing and matching. My second card only uses 2 different stamp sets, but it just shows you how easy it is to mix and match all of the little agenda that you might already have with maybe some newer ones. Again, not using a ton of new product here. This is definitely a project where I went back to my stash and pulled out some favorites. I love mixing and matching old with new. I laid the heart grid cover on the front of my card and then put glue in the cutouts and went ahead and glued all the hearts in place. And when those were kind of dry, I peeled up the heart grid cover that I've inked up, and I'm going to put foam adhesive on the back, and then we're going to place this right over the hearts on the background. This is also another way you could actually create two cards. You could have one card that just has hearts on it and one with the frame if you want to do kind of double duty that way. Now that our background is built, it's time to take our images, and I am using images from the Little Agenda dog, fox, chickie, bunny, cat, llama, bear, sloth, and monkey stamp sets. That is a lot. I am going to completely fill these 12 openings with little critters. And I definitely picked certain ones. So while this isn't necessarily a Valentine's card with a few substitutions and sentiments, it could be. But I went with a heart theme. And a heart theme doesn't have to be Valentine's. I know a lot of you maybe don't have a ton of Valentines to send or want to have those kind of things, but I always love a good heart theme anytime. And so that's what I went for here. This is more of a thank you card that's filled with hearts, which is another theme that I personally really, really like. We're going to color in the hearts on the images. So like I was saying, when I went to all of these different stamp sets, I picked images that had hearts, heart balloons, letters with heart seals, just a critter holding a heart, and even a little bear cupid, because I thought that was kind of funny, and I'm going to position him to kind of be aiming at the thanks in this. So everything is very similar. I tried to pick images that were similar. We're going to color in hearts with our 30 and 32, or our 32 and 35, or our 35 and 46. So 3 different color combinations, but all of them kind of just use these same 4 markers. It's going to give you a light peach pink balloon, a medium peachy pink balloon, and a red balloon or heart. That was kind of my thinking behind the coloring on my images and the consistency throughout. Then we're going to start coloring in our critters. And for that, lots of neutrals. The chickie, of course, will be yellow. The bunny's going to be just shaded with some light warm grays, so it still looks white but has a little bit of color. So for the llamas, we've got a little E40, 43, 44, and R00. This is one of the newer stamp sets. This is a new release product from the January 2021 release. So just adding to their fantastic collection of Little Agenda critters. Easy Sentiments is also from this release. I think those are the only 2 products from this release that I'm using. Everything else is previously released. Some of it is has been out for a while, so it's not new at all. Little R00 for the cheeks. That's going to be consistent throughout. And then just adding some nice little light color here, kind of some little dots and things to give the llama a little bit of texture. These are little, not tons of shading is needed. I do try to add some detail here and there where I can, but the coloring on these can be pretty quick. Little YR27 for the beak on our chickie, YR23, 31, and 30 for the rest of the little chickie. One of my favorite color combinations. I use a lot of these colors for many different things. R00 for the cheeks, and a little R00 just for the envelopes that any of the critters might be holding. For our monkey, we have E40, 43, 44, and 47. And I love this little guy. I actually used him, I believe, on both of my cards. Let me double check. I did. He just seemed to work out. He was a last minute thought on the second card. I didn't initially plan to use him, but we'll talk more about that here when we get to the second card in a bit. I did make an error on my fox, and I colored in the paws with a dark color just along the bottom, and I did try to fix it and I did it on the paw. I guess I did it on all the paws. Instead of recoloring it, I'm actually just going to go over the paws with YR30, which has a lot of colorless blender in it, a few times, letting it dry completely between each so that I can change that color. I didn't worry about the bottom of the feet because enough of him is going to be tucked back behind the frame that won't matter. The bear accidentally got colored a little bit off camera. I will color the other one on camera. So that is going to be E49, 47, 44, 43, and 40. The rest of the Cupid, his wings were BG 70 and 72. And just some of the pinks and things for the rest of the bow and arrow. No new colors other than the wings were introduced here. I just like BG 70 and 72 for wings lately. It's kind of been my go-to for anything that has wings. Just a couple more little guys to color in, and then we're going to take the coordinating dies. A little tip, because this is so many different stamp sets, I know it's a lot. I was kind of banking on the fact that maybe you might already have several different little agenda stamp sets and just kind of different ideas on how I like to mix and match them, like taking coordinating images. Another great idea is maybe birthday type images or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of really different ways to mix and match them, but they're small dies. It's a lot. The way I did it was I did stamp these all at once, but then I cleaned them all. And as I went to each stamp die combo to die cut these, I would put the stamps back away and pull the dies, tape them in place, and run them through. Then when I was done and I die cut them in batches, I didn't die cut everything at once, I would take the dies and put them back on the magnetic sheet that I use with my stamp storage and die storage system. And yes, before everybody asks, I have been asked multiple times to do an updated video on my stamp die storage, and that is coming. I am working on it. Look for that the first part of February because that has been highly, highly requested, and I have worked on it. I just have not put it up, and I am sorry about that. It is coming. But I put them back together that right away so that I don't even mix up the dies. I was so fearful of putting them in the wrong spot and then having to search through each set the next time I go to use them. So I was really conscious of making sure I was putting them away after each die cut. And I didn't share that on camera because it wasn't very exciting, but I did want to mention that here in case you guys are wondering the same thing. Now, I would suggest before you adhere anything, play around with placement. See where things fit the best, because some things are kind of right facing and left facing, and I like them not to be looking off the edge of the card. I want them more facing each other, and so this is a good time to play around with all the different placement and get your images where you want them to go before you start putting them together. Because our frame is popped up, we are going to use foam adhesive on anything that's inside of the frame to pop the critter up. So I put a foam adhesive square behind the monkey, but not the heart. That can be glued directly to the frame. And then we're going to just continue this for each of the critters. The only guy that I'm not going to put necessarily in a frame is the bear with the Cupid bow. He's going to be sitting outside of it, shooting down towards where the thanks is going to go. You can see I've laid out the thanks die on my card front, just kind of as a place saver, if you will. so that I know where not to tuck the images too far down so that they stick up above that sentiment once I get it die cut and adhered. This part goes pretty quick. It's just simply adding all of our cute little images to each of those cutouts. Isn't that so much fun? I just love mixing and matching. The heart images and balloon images are probably some of my most used from across the entire collection of Little Agenda, just simply because they are really easy to mix and match and work together. Kind of get that positioned correctly. And then for the balloons, we're going to take a little Nuvo Crystal Drops in White Blizzard to make them a little sparkly. When they dry, they'll have a nice little iridescent sparkle to all of those hearts. And we're going to do that for any hearts. So heart seals on the envelope, heart balloons, and then the hearts that the critters are holding in their hands. I wanted that to be consistent throughout the entire panel. And I love, love, love how this card turned out. This would be beautiful in lots of different color combinations. It does not have to be more of the red or pink or whatever that might be. I could see doing these in shades of blue, the same exact card, just completely switching it up. And I think that would be fun as well. Or any color combination. That's just one. Maybe blue and purple even. I think that would be really pretty. I'm going to die cut the Simon Says Stamp Small Script Trio die. This comes with Lovable, Hugs, and Thanks. We're going to be using Thanks and Hugs from our two cards today, and it's a small script die. So I die cut it once from Lawn Fawn Gold metallic cardstock and once or twice from smooth white cardstock. We're going to stack those one on top of another. I went ahead and glued that in place right there on the frame right above our Easy Sentiment strip, and then added some heart accents to finish the card. For our second card panel frame, we're using the Tree Branches cover. And I simply die cut this from smooth white cardstock, and I'm taking some Copic markers in E55 and E57 and coloring in the branches. The thing about this cover is that it comes with separate pieces. So there is going to be like some little flowers if you want to do kind of more of a cherry blossom kind of look, different leaves and things. So lots of options here. I'm just going to use kind of the basic 2 sizes of leaves to die cut some colored cardstock to add to our background. And you'll see that here in just a minute. But I want to color in these branches first to add a little color. Then we're going to mask off the edges of this panel, much like we did the heart grid cover. So from the stitching line to the outer edge, we're just going to add our Post-it tape, washi tape, whatever you like to use for masking. And then we're going to ink, and we're also going to mask off the branches. I don't want the color to get on those, so we just need a couple of pieces right along the 2 long sides. And then we're going to ink up this border with Chipped Sapphire Distress ink. And this instantly just adds an extra frame and a little extra interest, I think, to the finished card design. You'll see what I mean here in a minute when I peel this off and then we layer it over a stenciled background. It's just one of those little last or small touches that really adds a big difference. So we're just going to go around the edges quickly and add this color. I want it to be pretty dark. There is a lot of white on this particular card, so anything we can do, and a lot of neutrals and a lot of white. So we want to add some color where we can. And I know it looks a little funny, but when I peel this away, hopefully you can kind of see what I'm talking about as far as Just that kind of frame within a frame, and then the branches. Especially when we layer it over a background, you get the full effect. So on another piece of cardstock, I am going to use the Lawn Fawn Cloudy stencil and the Chipped Sapphire Distress ink to add a pretty cloudy sky. We're going to have that cloudy sky back behind the branches, so it looks like these up in the tree. And I purposely picked sloths and monkeys for this particular design. So they're going to be like standing and on the branches, or sleeping on the branches, or hanging from the branches. It's so cute and so funny. The monkeys have been out for a while, but the sloths are still relatively new. They were released here not that long ago, maybe just, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago, maybe a little longer. Time goes fast for some reason. I lose track of when certain ones are released within the last year. And look how cute that is when it's layered back behind. When I get it put back over here, you'll definitely see that. Just going to clean up all of my surface real quick, so hopefully I don't have a lot of ink transfer from one thing to another, and get that put out of the way. And then I'm going to share how I'm going to do the leaves. So the leaves are pretty teeny tiny, and I did not want to try to color them after I die cut them, and I didn't want them to be solid cardstock. So I'm actually going to take a piece of white cardstock, a little scrap, and we're going to blend YG 21, 25, and 17 together for this really nice green leaf blend. And then from this, we're going to use our leaf die to die cut. I'm going to do this several times. I did it once to see how it was going to work, and it worked perfect, and I was so super excited. So we'll do this a couple more times until we get plenty of leaves, because I want lots of greenery. I'm just kind of laying them out really quick here to see if I like how this looks. I do. So let's go ahead and attach this frame to our cloudy background, and then we can fill in our leaves and stamp and color our critters. I'm going to put some thin double-sided adhesive around the 4 sides of the frame, and then a little tip to get it perfectly in place without sticking down all the way is to only halfway peel up the sides. And what I mean by that is you'll just kind of peel up part of the side and then bend it back over on itself. And I'm going to do this on all 4 sides. I don't always do all 4 sides, but today I am. And again, just bend it back over. This is going to give you somewhere to hold on to as well, so you don't get your fingers in the adhesive. Let's just tap those leaves off, and then we're going to line it up with our background. And lay that down in place. And once it's straight, just start pulling out the double-sided adhesive, and it just works perfect every time. So just a fun little tip for getting that lined up. Let's go ahead and create some more pretty greenery for our leaves. I did adhere some of those down in place. Just getting a nice blend on my cardstock before die cutting. And like I said, I did this a few times. I wasn't sure how many leaves I was going to need. I did the bigger size leaf first. We're going to do some small ones, some more big ones, and then I think even some more small ones. I think I ended up die cutting each size twice. And I want to fill in with lots of greenery because this background is a little bit more subtle. So I'm adding little dabs of glue directly to the background and using an embellishment wand, a crystal katana, anything like that's going to work to pick up those leaves and then pop them down in place. Once you have your branch kind of where you want it, you can put a little line of glue back behind the entire thing and glue it down. And I even went in and added a few additional little leaves here and there. The more, the better. And I like how they're not all the same. even though I used the same colors, depending on where the die cut, some of them will have a little bit more darker, some will be a little bit lighter, and I like that variation in color throughout. You get a ton of leaves with each die cut. And I didn't quite use all of the leaves from die cutting each, the large twice and the small twice, but I used the majority of them. I probably had just a few left over. I would say maybe 7 or 8 total leaves left. I added quite a few extras, like some places I would have 2 when it's only one little branch coming out, just anywhere, or sometimes even 3, just to really give it a little bit fuller look. I wanted it to have plenty of greenery. We will finish adding all of these little leaves here. I'm just doing another quick blend, and then we'll add the rest. Once we have all of the leaves added to our background panel, I'm taking another one of those easy sentiment strips that I had left over, and I'm going to adhere it along the bottom edge of the card. This one says thank you for all the little things, which I think is so cute with the little agenda critters we're using. We'll be using that hugs die right above that. That'll be the last thing we do for the card, though. I'm using it as a placeholder right now, and we'll come back to that near the end. I've stamped the monkeys and sloths that I'm using, adding color to them. I did stick with the same color combinations for both, really, so lots of E40, 43, 44, and 47 with R00. The banana that this monkey's holding, that's going to have some like YR31 and 23 and 30. The hearts, those will be the colorful thing. We're going to have 2 critters standing right above the hugs. You can see those on the bottom of this panel. We've got a monkey holding a heart and a sloth holding a heart. And I thought those 2 guys were cute together, standing right above the hugs. We're going to have some monkeys that are hanging from branches, and then the sloths that are laying just crashed out on the branches, I think are so funny and so cute. So those guys are just going to be hanging there or laying there asleep, and we'll be adding some little Z's coming up from them. Just really, really funny little critters. Lots of same coloring going on here. I will cut out some of that just to save a little bit of time, because it's a lot of repetition over and over, or something I've already shown in the previous card. We'll color in this, and then I will show you the hearts really quick. We're going to die cut all of these. I will say I added 2 additional critters for the finished card. So I think I added an additional monkey, the monkey with the balloon, and then I added an additional sloth that I didn't stamp here. It's another one laying on a branch asleep. And that was simply because once I had stamped and colored and die cut all of these images, I really could see where I had some holes missing. And because these images are so small, you can use tons of them if you want to. And so that's what I'm going to do here. And of course, I picked these 2 because the trees really worked nicely with these images in particular. Now that we have everything die cut, it's time to simply put it all together again. We're going to glue everything directly to the card with the exception of the monkey with the balloon. He's going to be adhered with some foam adhesive. We'll show you that here in just a minute after I get him stamped and colored and die cut. But we want to, I laid everything out again, and this is where I was talking about it. Shows you kind of where maybe you have some holes, and if you want to add some more critters, you totally can. So I noticed up on the top section there's kind of a little gap there. Lots of different critters you could add. So we have that, and then on the third section, we have another big gap. And those gaps are going to kind of provide us with some areas where we can add some extra critters, some extra monkeys and sloths. And then I love the little sloth that's going to be hanging right there at the end of the hugs. So I laid the little guy down who's sleeping, and then that foam adhesive is going to kind of straddle the branch. So one up above and one below. Little white Nuvo crystal drops and white blizzard for the heart balloon and the hearts that the monkey and sloth are holding. Adding a little black pin detail for eyes. I think I forgot to do that on the first card. I generally do, but I didn't do it there. So I'm doing it for this card. Just going to go in and add that detail into their eyes so they really pop. Little white pin detail, not a ton. Some for the cheeks, but I think that's about it. And then we want to take some soft navy ink and the little Z's from the Little Sloth Agenda, and we're going to stamp those coming from all of the sleepy sloths. I think that's just a fun way to add something a little extra. It is blue, so it's not a lot of extra color, but it's a little extra interest. And then we are going to pull some images from one remaining stamp set, the Little Bear Agenda, which we didn't use anything else from that on this card. We used some of the images from that on the previous card. We're going to take a little solid heart from that, and we are going to stamp red hearts in a few places on this card using Lawn Fawn Lobster Red ink. And then we're going to take the thought bubble. There's a little speech bubble and a coordinating die in the Little Bear Agenda. We are going to stamp that on some smooth white cardstock, color in the heart, use the coordinating die, and we're going to pop that up with foam adhesive on our card as well. So just a couple of little extra details that were added after the fact. Plus I noticed I forgot to glue this guy down. Sometimes with all of these little pieces you can forget. I did stamp this once and color it in, and I colored in the outer thought bubble with the peach colors, and I didn't like it at all. I was instantly like, yeah, that's a no. So I stamped it again and just colored in the heart with the red, and I think it matches the theme of the card a lot better. And then I guess I've never used this little speech bubble because I had to cut him apart from the other dies. We'll run that through the die cutting machine and pop that up with some foam adhesive. For the hugs, just like we did on the previous card where I stamped the hugs from some Lawn Fawn metallic gold cardstock and then smooth white cardstock and popped it up, we're going to do that here. I also added a little white pin detail to the leaves. I thought it just added a little bit of that center part of the leaf and gave it a little bit more detail. The hugs, the loop in the G is a little too long and it doesn't fit great. So what I'm going to do is just take my scissors and snip off kind of the bottom part of that loop. It's going to fit underneath the edge of the sentiment strip, so you'll never know that it's missing. And that is it, you guys. I hope you have enjoyed this video showcasing some ideas on how to mix and match images from the Mama Elephant Little Agenda stamp sets. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these Little Agenda mix and match cards. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another video featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new card making video. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.